All right, at this time, I'll call the meeting to order, January the 9th, 2024. Welcome everyone to our meeting. At this time, I would ask for those who have cell phones or any other devices to keep them on mute or vibrate. And also I would ask our committee if they have any pecuniary interest to please state them at the time that they need to state them. I will start out with introducing some of the staff that are here, followed by our committee. I'll start to my immediate left, our Chief Administrative Officer, Adam Sabansky, followed by the Town Clerk, Aaron Kowarchuk, who is just beside over there in the blonde. Emma Lonson, the Manager of Planning and Development Services for Lambton County. Randy Burke, our planner, and we have a planner that is here. That's a new hire for us. He's only here to observe today. Josh Mueller, who is sitting there for our committee, if you've not met him yet, and our planning technician, Lisa Smeekins. And I'll introduce our committee, starting to my far right, our councillor Mike Vasey, Jennifer Turk, and Les Goldhawk, and myself. I am Bruce Moulton, and I am the chair of the committee. At this time, I will go over the minutes from the last meeting. I have a motion here by Jennifer Turk, seconded by Mike Vasey, that the minutes of the regular Committee of Adjustments meeting held December the 12th, 2023 be approved as presented. All those in favor? That's carried. We will move right to our first and our only application tonight. We have a minor variance application number A-0124. Take notice that an application has been made by Darren and Carolyn McFedrin with respect to the property known as Concession 13, Part E, half lot 20 RP 25R8515, Part 1, Town of Plympton-Wyoming, 5022 Douglas Line. The subject property is zoned agricultural -A1 1A1. Application is proposing a detached accessory structure. Accessory structures are permitted in the A1 zone. The following variance has been requested. 1. Variance of approximately 31.2 square meters, 336 square feet to permit the proposed ground floor area of all accessories structures to be approximately 221.2 square meters, 2,381 square feet, notwithstanding the maximum ground floor area of 190 square meters, 2,045 square feet, as per section 3.3.5A3 of the zoning bylaw 97 of 2023. At this time, I will call upon our planner, Randy Burke, to give us her.
Thank you, your chair. So yes, the applicant is seeking relief from one provision of the zoning bylaw to permit a detached accessory structure. The application was analyzed through provincial, county, and town legislation, finding that the property is designated agricultural area in both the county official plan and the town official plan, as well as zoned agricultural A1 in the zoning bylaw. Both designations permit a detached accessory structure, as well as the zoning bylaw does permit a structure in the A1 zone as well. It should be noted that although the property is zoned agricultural, it is a residential use on an undersized agricultural lot. So therefore it is subject to the provisions of the rural residential area, which permits a collective ground floor area of 190 square meters for all detached accessory structures. The property itself does maintain other structures such as a little shed, a gazebo, etc. So once the proposed accessory structure became in, the minor variance process was triggered because they are over that ground floor area maximum. Along with that, the minor variance application was subject to the 4 test, as per usual, starting with, is the proposed variance minor? There is no definition of minor. It is case by case. In this case scenario, the property is designated and zoned for the proposed use, and it's not anticipated that this structure will impact the surrounding property, so therefore it can be deemed minor. Is the general intent and purpose of the official plan maintained? As mentioned, the designations do permit this use, so therefore the town OP is maintained. The third, is the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw maintained? It does permit a detached accessory structure so long as there is a primary use, which would be the dwelling. I did complete a site visit, and it was noted that the accessory structure would be larger than the primary use, which is the dwelling. However, I provided you guys with the definition of accessory structure, and in that definition, it talks about the use to be secondary, not necessarily the size. So because this is proposed to be used for personal storage, etc., I therefore believe that the intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. It's also to be noted that if, say, this variance does not go through, and the applicant decides to take out whether the gazebo or the little shed that, again, based on my site visit, didn't pose any impacts to the property, the structure could still be built at the size that is proposed, because you would be under that maximum then. And then finally, is the application desirable for the appropriate development? It's zoned as well as designated for the proposed use. So therefore, I do believe it's appropriate. And with that, I'm recommending that that you guys, sorry, recommend approval with the following conditions in the report. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. McFedrin. Anything to add to our planner's report?
No.
Okay, I know we have someone else here. Your neighbors are here. Mr. Cates, anything to add or anything that you would like to say?
I'd just like to say that we own the property all the way around it. My wife and I have no objection to it whatsoever.
Great, thank you very much. Lisa, do we have any other correspondence or any correspondence applicable for this application?
No, the only correspondence received was from Mr. Cates, saying that he was gonna come to this meeting and express that he was in favor of the application.
Great, thank you. I'll now go to our committee and I'll start with my far right, Councillor Vasey. Do you have any questions?
No, sir. I have no issues. I went out and looked at it. It's gonna affect nobody. So the neighbors are okay with it. I'm okay with it.
All right, thank you. Jennifer?
Thanks. I don't have any concerns. I just have a question. Is there hydro lines that run right there?
They're dead now.
They are dead?
Yeah, it's been all changed underground.
Okay, because the
Yeah.
pictures in the report show it above.
Yeah,
ground.
we just
And
had
the
it.
sketch didn't, so I was a little confused. And the day I went for the site visit wasn't a very nice day, so.
For Christmas, they put all the wires underground, so
Awesome, okay,
they're dead now.
perfect.
Yeah.
Still there, just obviously Mr. Bates is taking them when he does his hydro, so once that happens, they will disappear, but they've been all disconnected.
Perfect. I don't have any. other questions.
All right, Les?
Yeah, as far as location and what boundaries, or what sits beside it, I didn't have any issue with the shed being there. I had similar question in regards to the power line and whether there was an actual easement on the property at the, or by that shed, or where it would be. So that was my question. Is there that, or will it be like an actual easement?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Just for the power supply that goes to the red sheds that are behind the property.
He's doing that separate. That's not even done yet. The hydro's gonna come in and actually work with
So
him.
there's not an actual,
Hydro back there whatsoever right now.
there's no actual easement then.
There's no easement on the running through the property.
No. Everything's dead now. Everything's been,
Yeah, I seen where the power line.
yeah, it's all disconnected.
All right, and I understand that a site visit and a plan or assessment of the septic was looked after. I believe that was in the report from our from Crin Nada. So we're happy that was done, and Thanks for allowing that to happen. I have no questions at all for the application. I think it's pretty straightforward. At this time, I will actually go with the application and with our motion. So I have a motion moved by Les Goldhawk, seconded by Mike Vasey, that the report by Randy Burke dated January 2nd, 2020, should be 24. Be received, and that the application A-10124 be approved, subject to the following conditions. A certified lot grading plan must be submitted to the town of Plympton-Wyoming and approved by the town prior to permit issuance. Number two, a final grading plan certificate being submitted to the town of Plympton-Wyoming upon final completion and is subject to the town's final approval. Number three, a building permit is required. The applicant is to apply for a building permit and comply with all requirements as prescribed by the Ontario Building Code and to the satisfaction of the County of Lambton Building Services Department. Number four, the applicant is to ensure eaves troughs, downspouts, and grading is always maintained accordingly and within owned property boundaries, no exceptions. Number five, the septic area be protected and clearly identified throughout the construction process. Compaction of this area, including parking or material laydown area, is not permitted, and access should be denied by equipment and the general public at all times. Number six, the applicant is to ensure the property is generally maintained and drained during the construction process, that drainage waters are not diverted to neighboring properties, and that the weeds and grass are always maintained within 20 centimeters, 8 inches or less. And number seven, for the detached accessory structure, no personal, just for personal storage and use only, no habitable space, and no livestock permitted, and no commercial or industrial uses are permitted. Our committee have heard of all of these proposals. All those in favor? That's carried. There is a 20-day appeal period, and during that, you can contact Lisa, and she'll give you any direction that you need to move on with this project. Nothing can be done until 20 days from today. All right. Thank you all. We're gonna move on. Excuse me. So business arising, we do have some business arising. As those of you who saw on our, who saw what our business arising is, Erin, you were gonna speak on our business arising, I believe.
Yeah, so I think you all received an email from committee member Turk, and there was a string of emails there discussing how applications are brought to the committee and the public. So Adam asked me to come here tonight and just speak to what the clerk's department has done in the past. So we include the required information from the application on our notice. And we keep the application just for committee members to protect personal information of people. We could redact that information and put that application online for everyone to see if that's what the committee chooses. We don't do that. It's difficult to read a lot of times. So that's the procedure we've followed, but we're open to the committee suggesting differently that they would like to see that go out to everyone. So I think in the email it was mentioned regarding that the application is required to be available, which it's always available. And it says at the bottom of our notices that they can ask for the application at any time. The public can view it, but we just include the details on our notice. So I'm open to questions or suggestions to change that process going forward if committee would like that.
I'll open it to our committee. Any suggestions or do we keeps going status quo? Any ideas?
Was there a problem with somebody not being able to see something that they wanted to see, other than the personal information?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so at the last committee of adjustment meeting, I had someone call me on the way to the meeting here and ask where the application was, because they wanted to confirm that the information in the application was what was in the planning report. And then if you recall at that meeting, they ended up bringing up the application on the screen here because there was questions arising from what was put in the application or what was being asked for versus what was being presented by the applicant. So for transparency's sake, I don't see the reason why we can't put the application on the agenda, provided that you get rid of the contact information such as the email and phone numbers. Because when you look at the third party or outside agency reports, they put in the contact as in the person's name or the applicant and that subject address. So all that's in the application anyways. And if it goes to OLT, that has to be provided to them anyways and becomes part of the public record.
Aaron?
I agree, with committee member Turk. The only thing is that the name and address of the property is on the notice and our staff reports and the conservation authority reports. The only thing we're protecting really is email addresses and phone numbers. But we can redact that and then include the application to everyone. We include it for the committee members right now, so you can see where the information was taken to put in the notice. Different step that we can alter and do. We're open to suggestion. That's how we.
And the public are aware that when they put in an application that as long as the public are aware that that information will be out for the general public, which I assume that they would know that.
It doesn't, I don't know that it says it on our application form. We could make them aware that this application would be public.
It is a planning act requirement.
Yeah, it is required to be available. And we say that on our notice, if someone wants it to get the notice. I was given a legal advice not to include that type of information, to include it on the notice. Things change, committee members, they want something different, we can just alter what we're doing and redact that information and provide the application. We were just trying to be transparent yet cautious. For the
Cautiously transparent.
cautiously transparent. Yeah, I mean, it's always available for anyone to view, so.
All the required information is on the notice and it's a lot clearer and easier to read in the notice. Often the applications, as I'm sure you have seen, can be a little bit hard to read and using how they're worded and stuff. So we've done it this way just to keep it clean, to keep their information private. It does say on the notice that the application is available to view in the office during office hours. So that is on the notice, so we've done it just to keep it clean, clear, concise in the past, but as Aaron has mentioned, we are open if the committee wishes otherwise.
Committee members?
We're already saying it's available. If it's adding another step to staff to include it.
Why we're digitizing the document, obviously for your committee agenda directly, correct? So it would be just, the only extra step would be also attaching it to the public.
I don't think work-wise, I don't think it would be that much more to do. I mean, you're just adding the same stuff that we get to the same stuff the public would get.
It's really comes down to a style preference. I think where it becomes most prevalent and useful is where you have a applicant who is also presenting, trying to work through a situation with the committee. They may be referring back to things that they may or may not have suggested in an application. So I think last week was a perfect example where that application would have been useful, given the applicant was advocating on his own behalf, and it was not clear what was in the applications. Again, we've carried out a certain way in the past. If the committee feels that it would be beneficial to include the whole application, staff have no objection to that. We're cautious of that because of direction we've received in the past.
Okay.
The one thing I'd just add is that if the application is going to become public information, the onus is also going to be on staff in situations where person A comes in requesting one variance, it gets to committee, it's tabled because perhaps it's not supportable, but it's suggested they revise their application, that we're gonna have to tuck something into that documentation to show that it's being changed, because what could happen Actually, Randy and I were just having a very brief conversation about it, is hypothetically, Adam comes in and asks for a variance to lot coverage, which committee struggles with, gives him the option to revise his application, so he now comes back with something different. That's not what was applied for, so there may be some confusion, so we just have to make sure that we make a note, whether it's just a simple notation to say applicant changing application as a result of committee meeting, blah, 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 and just make sure that it's in the documentation. Cause I just wouldn't want, I get where the committee's going. I actually think it's a good idea. But I wouldn't want someone to then at the second meeting where the application has changed and suddenly go, well, wait a minute, this paperwork doesn't match. So we'll just figure out a way to do that.
Even on a deferral, though, the application would be posted, would change anyway.
Yeah, and we can figure out a way in how we do the notice, and it may be that we don't put anything in, but then with all the reports attached to it, that just answers the question too, right?
Les, any comments?
To be honest, I don't have. Choose one way or the other.
Yeah, and what I feel is the more transparency that we can have, I think the better. And it certainly doesn't, I want the public to know exactly what we're doing here. So I would be certainly in favor of having that application put on. Oh, we have our another committee member on. I'm not sure if it's a different time over and where she is.
Still connecting.
Well, at the beginning, she said it wasn't working, and then I just didn't notice that she was trying to get in just because she had emailed me saying that she couldn't get in. So I didn't notice that she was waiting.
Well, I guess I just need a vote, I guess, on from our committee.
I don't think it.
Or
would be
just a
necessary if there was
consensus.
No motion, I think.
Okay,
we heard
consensus.
That majority of people are comfortable with that, including the applications, and the clerk's department will review that process to ensure that redacting appropriate information and to ensure that an appropriate disclaimer is attached to the application to ensure that the applicant is aware that it will be disclosed to the public.
Sounds good. Any other business arising?
Not from previous meetings. No.
Okay, new business. I'll go to staff first for new business. Anything, Lisa?
Some of you have received emails about OCA memberships. We as staff will take care of those, getting you registered again this year. We haven't done it yet just because last year Ella did it. Right now she's on vacation, so we just want to make sure we have all the right information and just do them all at the same time. The deadline is not until April to have it done by, but it will be done well in advance of that, likely in the next couple of weeks.
Great, thank you. Any other new business?
Not from staff.
Any new business from planning? Okay, I'll move to our committee members. Any new business? Mr. Basie. Jennifer? Les? I'll vote from our CAO. Anything? No, sir. All right. Well, then at this time, I have a motion. Mike Basie, seconded by Les Goldhawk, that the Committee of Adjustments meeting be adjourned and the next meeting be scheduled for February 13th, 2024 at 5:15 PM. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.